That's down. I would think that's so. As you do that part, it's not very good. It's like, well, eventually.
They did. Already had it.
So that's why it's came out of 14.
That's always like.
And five.
We.
Just about.
It's always something you get to, that's all sent up, you just need to send up. Share very. My sister. At least 10 years.
Find a find your computer to pull up. Let's see. And then it's a little-
I'm gonna like how my friend just survived.
Yeah.
She goes back and I every year with
And she could, she going
We always feel like our public process can do this people, so if you wanna make comment, you'll have to mention that. That's okay, no, I feel like, like, just surprising you because there's people coming here, so you don't know what that happens, you can just hire true taxation, you know, a lot of people are there.
He's got 10. Oh, he's got it, okay. So they.
She's a
Yes. So.
No. That's,
City Hall.
I, it's.
City Hall.
Right, yeah.
City Hall.
So easy.
All lowercase. Yeah.
He's talking about. Yeah. But that's fine. We have a nice look at the long time. You know, the appropriation here. You live up there on the stories here, so. It turned into kind of dialogue, which is. No, I never. I That's our blessing.
Yeah. And also, work sessions or whatever.
It's all the higher.
Yeah. They cut down. For kids. That's.
You can sit.
Zero. That's why we're.
down there.
So what's the? Bill consent.
Yeah.
I'm cold, I'm cold.
I got out for a while, since I started. Well, yeah. Fully staffed for that. Oh, you are? No, I was there, that's good.
Yeah, I got casuals here. Was that on the ninth or in the marine?
Back in here.
He's smart.
Well, then I couldn't gamble. Oh, they will. No. Yeah, I obviously know that. You get down the call, you just put it in the machine.
When I was in school, I used to. And your parts have to actually get out of your paycheck. You didn't leave it much. Not as good as.
Never even thought.
I mean, that's a tax free one though.
Yeah.
That's not a terrible thing.
Yeah, tell the landlord that.
Yeah, it's tax free.
Yeah, Excel, tell them that.
It's like an HSA number.
Yeah.
No, that didn't go well there.
Okay, great.
Took a while to figure it out.
They love it. Well, maybe odds will be. How good was that?
I was on the show here to say, well, that's pretty cool. Actually.
It's a nice area. Yeah. You don't have.
The only two oil is not gas parking. It's either phenomenal, or like you get in, get out, or it's even goodbye.
I don't, yeah, in the middle of nowhere.
Not stop the user. That's.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. All of a sudden, we were directed into the parking lot, like right next to the first one. It took 2 minutes to get out. I was like, I go, well, it's like, yeah. It's never like that.
So building an overpass. Over the
My railroad made it.
over the. So you.
I'm gonna call us to order. This is a special meeting of the Wilson City Council on December 18th, and we'll start with pledge of allegiance anyway. Yeah, start the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance.
One day, I think about liberty and justice for all.
Invite public comment like we always do, in case anybody wants to share anything with council. We just had a meeting a couple weeks ago, but if you'd like to share any comments with council, just feel free to come up to the podium so we can see and hear you. Kind of blocks our view of the audience, unfortunately. Councils are tall, I can see them. And just share a couple minutes of comment with council. And we'll allow for that online too. Can you see if there's any online participation?
No, just chat.
I don't see anybody jumping right up. That's all right. You can do it at any council meeting. All right, so we have a short consent agenda, the December warrants, and then the purchase of the radio for the ambulance with the emergency center funds. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
That was at exactly the same time. Brian had the first and Tim with the second. Any further discussion? And I'm gonna call, do we need to do a roll? Jeff Passan, we can hear him, okay.
He's on though.
Jeff, just say something so we know we can hear you.
Aye.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. All right, thank you. And now we have a public hearing on a nuisance order at 936 Grant Boulevard. And I think Carolyn wanted to start this one off.
Yep. So. So I'm here to provide some background on the item before you today. The city of Wabasha received a number of complaints on the property at 918, 930, 936 Grant Boulevard about the accumulation of lawnmowers, building materials, auto parts, vehicles, barrels on the property. We had a meeting with our attorney and our planning and zoning, Christy, and we're able to confirm that the property, despite being zoned commercial, was in violation of the city's nuisance ordinance, which prohibits the storage of junk materials out in the open on someone's property regardless of zoning. So just to read that, it's under chapter 91, junk and rubbish, any material or substance stored in the open or not enclosed in a building which does not serve nor is intended to serve any useful purpose or the purpose for which it was originally intended, including but not limited to refuse, empty cans, bottles, debris, used furniture, unused appliances, machinery parts, motor vehicle parts, remnants of wood, decayed, weathered or broken construction material, no longer usable, metal, or any cast off materials. So then we had site visits and photographic evidence that was gathered by the police department to verify the storage of junk on the property, such as inoperable lawnmowers, motor parts, unlicensed vehicles, building materials. We sent a letter to the property owner with 10 days to clean up the property. They asked for more time, and then we provided until November 15th to clean up the property from that initial letter. And then it allows for the owner to request a public hearing, which they requested. We actually originally scheduled it for the regular council meeting, which was the first Tuesday of the month. Rescheduled it for December 18th, noticed it, and then I did get a request last evening about 4:35 to postpone it again to January, so that because they weren't able to make arrangements for their legal representative to be here tonight. And I don't see him here. And I just said, at this point, we had noticed it to the public, so we had to continue. And so I'm assuming he's decided not to come. We did service the notice of the public hearing in person, and we communicated about it and actually talked about it on Monday about it being today at 6. So I don't know where they are, but I think according to talking to Mike last evening, we could still continue to conduct the business today, although he's not here for his appeal. Joe and I went to the property on Monday. We could see that some progress had been made on corner there, and he was able to discuss with us kind of removal of a lot of material, but there's a lot that's still there. And so it was kind of hard to pin him down with what he felt like he could do. I think there's still, part of his position. I think if he was here today, was just wanting to confirm kind of this isn't junk material. So we had some kind of discussion about, is this junk or not junk? And Joe and I both looked at our ordinance and what we see on the property, define it as junk because it's inoperable, it's building material, it's stored out in the open. And then just kind of some of the questions about being zoned commercially. Can I do this because I'm zoned commercially? And we confirmed that the nuisance ordinance applies if you're zoned industrial or commercial. And he felt, trying to pin him down, that we could potentially, he could do 25% cleanup on his property by May 1st. He's concerned about the weather and winter and his ability to really accomplish all of this. And he has discussed with staff about the opportunity to build a fence, maybe build a gravel driveway. So I think what my discussions with Attorney Clarity here today. Oh, hi, Lance. There he is, the man of the hour. Okay. I was just talking about you. No, kind of your proposal that we had talked about on Monday. So you can talk
Okay.
after me, but, anyways, we just talked about 25% cleanup by May could be difficult to kind of measure, so his recommendation was to go with more of a 50% or 100%, probably ideally 100% cleanup by a certain date. What this ordinance in front of you talks about is that we would establish a date for cleanup. And our police chief by our ordinance is gonna be the one determining if it's cleaned up. And then what the action in front of you states that if it's not cleaned up, then we would pursue action which would involve a warrant. To go and hire a contractor ourselves to clean it up and assess it back to the property. One thing is, I did have a lot of people, as we noticed the meeting, reach out, but could not make it today. I've included their comments and I actually got one more email yesterday and it was just too late to add there, but I have included in your material, some of the complaints, some of the discussion has been that the trailers and lawnmowers parked all over the property block views in the intersection. Some concern about oil and gas being stored there. Is this a kind of a lot of questions, does our ordinance allow it? And when staff investigated it, in fact, it is out of compliance with our nuisance ordinance. And we started probably tracking this year, and the first one that I could document it was this past February, a phone call came in. And then we also included some Google imagery, just showing that some of why it's emerging now and not 10 years ago or 6 years ago or 7 years ago is, there's some Google imagery that demonstrates the lot has become fuller over maybe just the past couple of years or 3 years. But going back to 2015, it looked a lot different, and even 2020 on the Google imagery, a little bit different than we see today. And then I'm going to cede the floor to our police chief to add comments. He's registered.
Any questions for Carolyn?
Yeah.
Any further, Joe?
I
totally
think you covered
understand.
it all.
Okay.
I can answer
Yes,
questions, I
okay.
covered everything.
Yeah.
Any questions for Joe?
No.
So it looked like, in terms of the order of abatement, we would need to have a date established. But it's our attorney's recommendation that it be no less than 50% and 100%, is that correct?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't say that,
Okay.
I mean, I would,
Something more measurable?
I guess, yeah, Caroline and I have talked about this, and different cities do this differently, I don't think your ordinance requires a certain specific. Allowance, so like, you've declared a nuisance. The property owner has now appealed that declaration, which is why we're having this hearing today. And, there's no right to allow a nuisance for any period of time. That being said, it's my experience that, one of two things happens, either the property owner will agree to clean the property up, but they can't do it. It's just too big of a task typically on a lot of these properties. This isn't the worst property I've seen by a long stretch, by the way. But But, you know, if they wanna clean the property up themselves so that the city doesn't do it and pay for it, and, you know, it'd be expensive for the city. And they're agreeable to that, then typically we give them time to do that, a reasonable period of time. Based on the condition of the property in your estimation. Now the other way, the other thing that could happen then is they're disputing and are saying they're not gonna clean it up. And if they tell you you're not gonna clean it up, there's no use in giving them 5 months to clean it up or whatever, you know, there's no point, then you might as well just give them 30 days or something and then. Have Carol, and then so regardless, I think you should allow the property owner to speak. Should you wanna make a statement, and I think he can take questions if he wants, or if he just wants to make a statement, that's fine. I think you should keep the public record open if there's members of the public that wanna make a statement. And then the last thing I would say, a couple more things, you're acting in your quasi judicial capacity here, so basically what that means is. You're, people here and then Jeff on Zoom, or council member Sol on Zoom. You are gonna compare the ordinance provisions that Caroline read to the facts in what they call the record of the proceedings, which is. Caroline's statement, Mr. Benner's statement if he makes one, the chief's statement if he makes one. Any other members of the public that make a statement, the public comments that Caroline's organized and put in the record, these comments from the property photographs. That are attached to the attached to the resolution, and then the notice letter, the September 19th notice letter that's attached. And then the tax statement proving that he's the owner, the taxpayer record. So all of that's the record of proceedings. Your job is to review all of that and determine to sustain or uphold the determination of the city staff that there is a nuisance or nuisances. Or whatever, and protect that and not adopt this regulation. So those are your choices. I guess the other thing I would say is. If you give a period of time, I think it would be. I think if regardless, you should give at least 30 days, regardless of what happens. And if you give more, that's fine, perfectly reasonable. It's in the city's interest that Mr. Benner cleans this up and the city doesn't have to do it. Because if the city does it, we're gonna have to pay people to do it. Take that expense on and then assess the cost against the property, which you might see that money, but it might be time, significant time before you see it. So what'll end up happening here is this resolution authorizes us to just move forward with cleaning it up. You know, depending on how much time you give them, which is in paragraph 3 under conditions in order. So that'll have to be changed based on the council upholds Caroline's determination to change that. But ultimately, whenever that period expires, I'm gonna recommend to Caroline that she get quotes to do the work. And bring that back to council so that you approve those quotes and authorize, so you know how much you're spending, basically at that time. So that's the process that I would suggest you use. I wouldn't discuss your opinions on it until after you've heard whoever wants to speak, Mr. Benner or anybody else. And then I would close the public hearing at that point. And then. Before you close the public hearing, you can ask, I wouldn't state your opinion, but you can ask questions of Caroline, of me, of Mr. Benner, or of anybody else that speaks, that is trying to answer the questions. And then close the public hearing, and then you can, like a judge, deliberate over and make a decision. So that's what I got. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, so that's what I would recommend. So if Caroline's done and the chief are done, then I would ask, you should call Mr. Benner to make a statement or present evidence if he has any, and then ask anybody else to be called one more time.
Did you open the public hearing? You do that after?
No, I
last
can, when last.
Yeah.
After last is done.
I'll open the hearing now. Do you wanna talk to council? We welcome that.
I'm kind of curious what the public has to say, so that maybe I have a way to maybe share how I want to handle it and how things have gone since the letter came.
That's fine.
It's fine with me.
So the public hearing is open if anybody would like to make a comment.
Well, it'd be nice to hear what he's thinking before we comment, actually. I think.
Well, they're making arrangements to deal with my property when it's zoned general commercial and it's got the outdoor sales attached to it and mechanic work attached to it, so.
Hey Lance, come up and kind of explain what your operation is and what you've got going on.
Feels disrespectful to be talking to you and not be able to see.
Yeah.
So, the property zone. It's general commercial and I get that. And outdoor sales is included in that, so. That part of it, whereas majority of that is done on site and there's I guess. You gotta have a private structure to evidently make the transaction or whatever, but it's always been a repair shop. Madison's were, the lawnmower repair place in town for many years. Don passed away, then Dave's gone now. People started bringing me their power equipment. And I started doing repairs and that's how it started. Caroline made comment how things have progressed to where they are now. Well, yeah, they've been gone a while, so there is more repair work to be done. It's not just that though. That's what I do. I buy and sell, and that's the property. You can't do it at your house. You have to do it at a location. When the letter was given to me, I worked diligently to, it's housekeeping. It got away from me, but what you want to throw away, it's not junk. Those tractors run. They might need a transaxle or they might need a starter. I've recycled 6 riders, 3 snow blowers, 2 lawnmowers, 12 tractors are gone. Caroline didn't even notice that. She wasn't concerned about that or didn't have an inventory, but things are moving forward. I mean, I purchased forklifts so that it can go over the ground without sinking. It's an all-terrain. Shelf's been bought to get more things inside, but I'm operating the property as the way I feel. It's zoned for outdoors sales and service and mechanic work. I know it's zoned for being a bar. I'm not that kind of guy. It's zoned for a microbrewery. I'm not that kind of guy. But according to the zoning requirements, I meet those. So other than, it's a better home and garden kind of thing. A neatness like that, it's not my cup of tea. I'll try to do better. One of the things that I did let Caroline know in the very beginning was they were trying to set a meeting here. And I was trying to, I would have liked to have an attorney present with me. And he got back to me on Monday and said that, I'll give you the representation you need, but he can't make this meeting tonight. I asked her in an email if it could be rescheduled to January. She said, no, it's too much stuff has gone on where people have came and I get that, but I still wanted my attorney present and I wasn't able to have that either. Partly because he didn't get back to me, but he wasn't available, so he did, and I do have one now, but I don't know how that'll go. But I want everybody to know that I was operating under the requirements of that general commercial status. And there's nothing there that's, things move. I mean, there are always new items there. It's just what I do. And that's why I keep the property. That's it.
Thank you, appreciate that.
And you.
Anyone else feel compelled to make a comment? Well, is that a question that you can maybe address? Gary?
Hello, everyone.
Thank you for letting me have the opportunity to kind of speak to everybody. My name is Gary Meidlinger. I live across the street from Lance. And we moved here in 2020 and got to know Lance a little bit. And actually, he's a very skilled small engine repairman. I've brought our riding lawnmower over there when it leaked some oil and eventually ended up seizing up. I, didn't realize it at the time, but basically needed a full engine replacement to make the lawnmower work again. He's also sharpened blades for our lawnmowers, that type of thing. So I know that's kind of what he specializes in. I know he has a lot of equipment out front that he buys and sells. Honestly, it looks like according to the, I don't know if you'd call it the ordinance regarding that. I think it's like, calls out like rubbish, garbage, parts, I can't remember all the specifics. But I personally, I don't believe what he has out on the property actually matches a lot of those things that are called out, but then it does say something about something about leaving it open-ended as well, for other things to be included in that ordinance. But honestly, it does not bother me. I can see it right out my front windows. And I know that he's operating a business over there and, yeah, I think that, and I have seen noticeable improvement, recently. So I can tell that he's working on it. I see him late at night, probably after he's put in a full day's work already, attempting to clean it up. So I do appreciate that as well. But yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about it. I don't think it's endangering anybody or, that type of thing. So, but yeah, I just thought I'd, come and just kind of voice my opinion. I kind of see it every day and, yeah, and, I know he's operating a business there and, that's what he does. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you.
Experience.
Hi, I'm Amy Glomsky, and I actually feel the exact opposite way, Lance. We've got a great little town. We've got lots of businesses in this town that operate outside and have their things around in a neat and orderly way. And I mean, the oil drums or whatever they are, all those big barrels. When we read through the information, it sounds like there's oil in, or gas or things that are flammable and dangerous, and just, what does that have to do with the business having, I don't know, it looks like there's a dozen of them or however many, but it really is a terrible eyesore for our town, and look at all these people that are here tonight giving energy and time, because you have decided to, it's great that you're a wonderful business person and that you've got skills doing what you're doing, all of that is great. But you also have to, we're a community and, when you look at it, does it not look unappealing to you, Lance?
Well, there's a story behind barrels. But if you would have came and stopped and introduced yourself and said, can we do something about that? I would have entertained that. But this is the first time tonight that I've ever heard your view.
Yeah, well, and that's exactly what we're here tonight.
Yeah.
Saying, and there's a
Absolutely.
lot of people that have that view that haven't come here tonight, but many have emailed Caroline and many talked, and it just, it's just a community thing that we care. We want to be proud of our town and, we're proud that you're a business person trying to do it, making your way, doing good work. But it just, it feels like you could do it in a manner, there are inoperable things and what Caroline read. Even though your property is zoned commercial, it's not in accordance to the law, the ordinance, the nuisance ordinance. So there are things that need to be looked at and
No,
talked about.
I didn't get to tell you that I use waste oil to heat the shop. And those drums are distributed back out into the community to fill them back up. Which in turn is what I use to heat during the winter and have 20 years. So the barrels, I mean, they can be moved, but they were alongside the shop. I just put them across the front of the shop. They didn't move far from where they were. You just noticed them now because they're out front. They were on the side of the building for many years and now they're a problem.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to share. It's good to meet you. I wish I were meeting under better circumstances,
Wish
but,
you would have swung in and stopped and said, hey.
and I hope you decided to really clean up and, you know, just make our community even a nicer place to live and work.
It's a repair shop.
Thanks, Amy. Anyone else who cares to make public comment? We still have no online, et cetera. Karen,
I hadn't intended to share for Milliken Avenue, but I'm wondering. Feel disrespectful to turn to him instead of
it's
you,
an odd
but,
setup, isn't it?
I'm wondering if, I don't know how many of those pieces of equipment are there waiting to be repaired, but maybe you could ask your customers not to bring them in until you could work on it. Just a thought.
Thanks, Sharon. Anything further? I'll call one last time for public comment before I close the hearing.
So then Caroline, could you just flesh out the issue of the rescheduled meeting from December 2nd to today? 'Cause I mean, my understanding was you tried to set it for December 2nd. Mr. Benner said that his attorney couldn't make that meeting, so then you rescheduled it 16 days in the future. Today. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
No, it's not what was said. He hadn't called back is what I told him.
Yeah, I mean, we were trying to set a timely public meeting, and when we spoke on November 30th, I think it was, I presented you with December 2nd or December 18th to meet. You did say, I haven't heard from him, but we both hoped that, you know, this much in advance would work, so.
This meeting for me was rushed because he hadn't returned my phone call. And you said, well, if the 3rd wasn't gonna work, we've got this for an option. I said, well, let's shoot for that. And you wanted an answer. And I said, let's shoot for the second one. I had mentioned to you on our walk around on Monday that he did get back to me, but he could not make it.
So what efforts so the original notice letter was September 19th. So that's 3 months ago. What efforts did you make from September 19th?
So in the beginning, when the letter came, I knew nothing about anything that was being prepared. Nobody said, Lance, you know, things are getting out of hand or we gotta do something here. It just came as a letter that I had 10 days to comply. And then I said, well, I'll clean up the back area and put some shelves up and let me show you what I can do. I've done a lot in the past 45, 50 days of cleaning up. I mean, there's 20 riders gone, 6 were scrapped, 12 full riders, the snow blowers, the lawnmowers, and more scheduled, but I can't do it overnight.
Okay, that's all I had. I just wanted to make sure we're clear on. the process.
Well, with that, I'll ask one more time, if there's any public comment, otherwise I'll close the hearing. All right, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing at 6:31. And council can deliberate. what we have before us. Any questions for anyone?
Well, I have a question for you, Lance. We had talked on Monday about, you know, the vision that you felt like you could have 25% of it cleaned up by May 1st, which is kind of hard to measure, but is that still where you feel like you could get by May 1st?
Well, you never said May,
Okay,
and you started out with 50. And with it being the winter time, I just didn't know.
mhm,
You know, am I gonna move forward with the housekeeping side of it? Yeah, there's more to be done, but it's real hard to do if it's below zero for a week at a time, or if there's 2 feet of snow on the ground. So maybe progress would be a little slower, but my other point is. Does Paul Bush have to put his cars inside of a building? If somebody wants that John Deere and it's way in the back because I have to keep it inside versus in a straight line or in a roll, that seems to be, I mean, you can't sell things if they're not visible to folks. So you're stuck on this clean up / put stuff inside thing. And I'm operating, the way I feel, I'm operating within the guidelines of general commercial.
So Lance, what do you think? You got everything out there, right? You and I have talked on the phone, Lance and I have talked on the phone about this a number of times. So I mean, if you cleaned up your front, put your tractors in a more of an orderly fashion that, you know, what you might see or expect to see at a dealership or a sales lot, that kind of a thing. Cleared away everything that was in the right of way, cleared away that corner so people could see around that corner, that kind of a thing. How long would that take you?
Oh. And I.
'Cause
Spring till spring,
we gotta have, so at this point, we gotta have some kind of a measurable date,
I
right?
understand.
And we gotta have, here's what's gonna happen in that date, you know what I mean?
understand. It's almost January. I don't know how much I can get done in the first couple of months. I'd like to think that I could get a considerable measurable amount of organization done by that May 1st date. I do. I can't tell you how much, but I think it'd be a lot.
So you
I
went,
got a lot of hard stuff done already. That's, you know, there was a construction material, ridge vents and shingle metal, some steel shingle stuff that got packaged, all to be sold again. That was the hard stuff. I got the shed moved. That's kind of where I want to put the tractors in a showable area, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
But a timeline, I can't tell you. I don't know. A lot, at least 50% by May.
Oh.
When she said spring, I was thinking April or, you know, I think I could get it done. But there's things that, well, that she has, Caroline has issues like with plastic food crates, you know. I must have sold 800 of the wood ones last year and there's no more of them to be had. But I got the exclusive on the plastic ones, but they're just not moving the way I thought they would. So I probably won't buy any more of those anyway, but they weren't made to be put inside. And if they're inside, then people don't know they're for sale either.
yeah. But are those in the right of way? Are they blocking that corner? I mean, I don't know.
Oh, that's
You know what I'm
one is clear.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, if you'd be agreeable to clean up that front area, you know, in such a way that it appears as though things are for sale. You know what I mean? You know, like we talked about, you know, line them up, biggest, smallest, so however you're gonna do it to make it look like it's a going concern or business shop. I think Sharon's idea, suggestion about scheduling your people to come in with cars or with vehicles or mowers and things like that, so you're not stacked up with a bunch of other people's stuff there as well, makes some sense. I know a lot of, auto repair shops do that, you know, it's like, no, we don't have room for it.
Yeah, no, not your car.
Yeah, we'll take it in 2 weeks or a week or something like that.
Yeah,
So it's like, and I know it's an internal business practice, but that's something maybe you could suggest doing. I would be agreeable to a 50% cleanup by May. I think that would be a reasonable thing I'd go with that. You know what I mean?
I'd suggest 100% by July 1st.
Okay,
Yeah, I had written down 50% by May, 100% by July, whatever date you wanna pick, you wanna pick. I mean, my two concerns are the right of way, which there are things in the right of way, plain and simple, that need to be taken out of the right of way. I've seen forklifts in the road part, that can't happen, just, it's not right. And then the only other concern I have is the oil, I know he uses it for heating, but. I mean, there's 30 drums, or at least there was, the last time I counted in the front, I mean, that's a lot.
guarantee.
Well, I don't know that, but how many you got inside, and it's an eyesore. That to me is a bigger eyesore, but I respect your business, but the cars, there's no for sale signs on them, or at least I don't see one. So I mean, it's not inducive, it's not, you don't walk across there or walk by and say, oh, that's a car lot, I can sell that. It's a lawnmower, I can buy that. That's my point is, doesn't
Yeah.
look like it's a commercial business.
yeah, so going entity.
So as long as we can fix some of those, I'm good with the dates we talked about.
You have to, there's another plan that you have to have a license to sell motor vehicles in Minnesota. So motor vehicle sales, it's in Minnesota statute, 168.27, motor vehicle dealers violations penalties. So I don't know if he has a license to sell, I don't think there's a lot of vehicles there, but there's a couple.
Yeah, we're not, yeah.
Yeah, so that's because they're unlicensed, so they definitely meet the definition of junk theft because they're unlicensed. So there's no doubt about that then.
Okay.
That's the other thing I noted, legal wise, that would just. You know, all cities have that ordinance, by the way, junk vehicles, and they define it as things that are inoperable or are unlicensed. And so, it's a very difficult one to enforce, to be honest. Based on inoperability, unless it's visibly, clearly inoperable, which you get those, like.
Under the ground.
Yeah, you know, these things can't be moved clearly, but if they can possibly be moved, then you're stuck with, are they licensed? And these ones have tabs, there's photographs in there about tabs that are expired, 2023 and earlier tabs. So isn't that right, chief? Did you verify that vehicles were unlicensed or had expired license?
Yeah.
So that's another thing I wanted to point out. That's all I have.
I have a couple of points. From what I've been told, the MNPCA has already contacted you. And so the hazardous material thing, I think, is out of our jurisdiction. They're dealing with that. Is that correct?
They've already been there.
They have. So, I mean,
I'm pretty clear.
as far as oil and waste that's being handled above us, so I think we can just dispel that, as far as we're concerned. I think I see you have a willingness to clean things up and the dates seem reasonable to me as far as just seeing some progress by May. I don't think I'm ready to vote on this, especially tonight. Mike, you said we're making a quasi judicial decision. Lance requested counsel to be here and you don't have counsel. We have counsel. I mean, I think it's good we're having the public hearing, we're having discussion. I don't think there's any reason we can't just vote at a later date once his attorneys had time to review this and make maybe some comment or suggestions before we vote. So that's my standpoint on that. And I would just propose giving Lance a chance to clean things up, like John said. I like your ideas too. It's what I was gonna talk to you about. I was gonna meet with Carolyn and Lance, but I got terribly sick last week. But I'd like to see us just give Lance a chance, you know, to make it look like John said, clean things up, and then maybe we revisit this at May 1st, and if it's not compliant, then we move forward with the action.
But you could do that, I mean, there's no. You know, the council can move forward however you want, you can essentially table, or I suppose it'd be a motion to postpone,
Mhm.
the correct motion. Under the Robert's rules, so you can make a motion to postpone until whatever date. In terms of the legal counsel, my view of that is, you're not wrong in spirit, but I also think when you get the letter in April or September. And we, you know, at a certain point, I don't think this is like a court proceeding.
Sure.
It's not a court, it's quasi-judicial, it's not judicial. So in court, you would have your right to have your lawyer there. I don't think that's what
Sure.
this is.
I just don't see it as being big enough a hurry to skip over it, you know, we can allow them another month before we vote to be able to do that, and if that's what you want, that's just my personal preference.
No, I don't, I mean, that's.
Yeah.
And just for clarity, yeah, I think if we wait till January and vote on it, then we're saying, I'm interpreting what's been written is if it's not cleaned up 50% per Joe's estimation, then we're authorizing hiring contractors and cleaning it up for him. Whereas I'm understanding the other proposal on the table is we just wait till May, bring you back photos or drive by it and then make a decision.
Yeah, you could,
That's what I'm.
Yeah,
you can do any of those.
Yeah.
You can, or a permutation of that if you want, or you can vote on it tonight and just give them till July 1.
and
I think the difference there, what Brian is saying is. Well, then his lawyer doesn't have a chance to weigh in on whether or not it's a nuisance.
Right.
Yeah, so that you would make, the difference is you'd make that decision tonight and give him till whatever date. Versus wait to make that decision until the lawyer can make an argument that it's not a nuisance. So that would be the functional difference and. Yeah, so I guess.
I mean, the heart of this ordinance, you know, depending on how we interpret what the junk is, you know, what's an inoperable vehicle, what's not. It's pretty clear the unlicensed vehicles, that is just absolutely in the ordinance. I mean, there's nothing we can do there. If they don't have tabs, they're considered against the ordinance. That's just what it is, but, you know, a lawnmower. I mean, how do we quantify what is, you know, a junk in terms of this definition and to what is, you know, what he's saying is his business operation? Cause I certainly can't do it. So we'd be relying on Chief Stark. And then, it doesn't seem like Lance is agreeing that. Or will agree that some things are junk, so I think that's just gonna bring us back to a point of. It'd be better to have an attorney weigh in on this ahead of time than we're just gonna get right back around to it.
Well, so that comes to my point, like with the whole nuisance thing, like following with the commercial, he's got a business, he. Doesn't think that these things are junk, they aren't junk, he can fix these things, but I have a hard time believing that the. 40 lawnmowers there are all have owners waiting for them to get fixed.
Right.
So when I'm coming back through and you're expecting me to make that decision, I'm gonna look at it just as a nuisance.
visual inspection, that's all you can do.
Well, right, like, and that's already been brought up, I mean, there can be. You know, a couple waiting for the week to do, move them out and bring more in. But I don't want the back and forth of what's junk and what's not, there's 30 tractors sitting here, I don't think that those 30 tractors. Are gonna go away in the next 10 days, which everybody else gets for. Getting rid of that nuisance issue, so the practice has to change. Otherwise, I mean,
Otherwise, we're unfairly
I-
enforcing our.
yeah, if there's 30 lawnmowers sitting here. He has the ability to fix them, they have value. But is it an eyesore for everybody else? I mean, that's what we're talking about with the nuisance thing, so I have to have some
Direction.
direction on that.
Yeah, well, I think
Stop.
the point of the ordinance too is that it says this, it says, well, it says something about in 9116. Any property within the city, so it's not. I mean, the idea is, for example, we're gonna take it out of this context and explain it in a different way. if you own a bar, let's say you own a bar and it's zoned to own a bar. That doesn't mean you can have. You know, Fight Club in your bar. And say, well, I have zoned for a bar, I get to do whatever I want with my bar, zoned as a bar. I mean, there's still nuisance conditions or have junk outside the bar. Piled up at the bar, zoned as a bar, I can do whatever I want.
Can't have 40
nuisance, you're surprised though.
Yeah.
It applies to residential properties, zoned residential, you can have a house, you just can't have a nuisance house. And so the question is. You know, it's not that it's not zoned correctly to sell. Items like tractors, I'm not saying that, but it's just, and I'm not arguing you do anything, I just wanna make sure you understand that.
Yeah,
Nuisances apply to properties that are zoned correctly for what they're used for. That's, and if you said it's zoned for a certain way, therefore it can't be a nuisance, that's what. Remove the ability to enforce the nuisance code, and that's not what it actually says in the ordinance, so the question is just simply. Is all of the amount of that, of those items. Cumulatively, does that constitute a nuisance or not?
Is it business sitting there, is it a registered business?
Yeah, I mean, that's the, I mean, they, yeah, sorry.
Do you have a question?
Good evening, my name is Greg Glonsky, and what I'd like to do is just speak in terms of. What the ordinance is and what your collective responsibility is to enforce the ordinance for me, for you, and also for Mr. Bennett. And really, in essence, it's a legal document that you're looking at, the ordinance. And for whatever reason, whoever has done that, we have found that Mr. Benner is out of compliance. So he's being served papers and all of the other things that go along with this. I think we have to be very careful to make sure that we honor what the ordinance says. And as a city, we do that. Nothing against you, Lance, nothing at all. But everyone needs to be able to live within that ordinance. So, and also when we have someone who's out of compliance of that, which has been stated here, we have to make sure that we don't choose items that can't be enforced, like, okay, we want 50% of it gone by May 1st. 50% of what? I mean, probably have to go there and count every last thing to let the homeowner know or the business owner know, you need 50% of this gone by May 1st, or you need 100% of it gone by whatever time. Because there are a lot of people looking at that property right now. And we have to make sure that the ordinance, the law, I don't know if you call an ordinance the law or whatever it is, but that has to be followed. And it's your responsibility, I guess, you know, or whatever, Chief Stark, to make sure that everyone's in compliance. And that's what I would say tonight. Be really careful if we start talking legality here, that we're following what we say we need to be doing. So thank you.
I think we all appreciate that. And we're also dealing with the pragmatics of this. We hear what you're saying, Lance. We're trying to come up with a realistic plan, because we don't want this to become the city's problem. We want you to be able to manage the items that are on your business property. That's in the best interest of your business. That's in the best interest of our city and our community. So we're just trying to get to a point where we have an understanding of what that actually looks like and can realistically be achieved. My question, and is more of a hypothetical one, is just given what you've told us about your business, that there's gonna be acquisition, it sounds like, in this time period too, and how does that alter your perception on the realistic time frame for which we see significant progress, 50%, and then we will ultimately need to decide a date for 100%.
Acquisition,
Do you sound like these plastic crates, like you're acquiring things that you are trying to sell as well? It's not simply a repair shop. You're looking for product that has value that you can sell.
that type of stuff is done for all my life. I mean, if you find something, you buy low, you sell high. I know, you know, the wood ones, I must have sold 800 of them. They were very popular. The plastic ones, they didn't go so good. I'm glad I didn't buy a bunch of them. But when they're gone, they're gone. I don't intend to get any more of those. But it's, what I agree.
That's why I asked the question, and again, almost more hypothetically, as you answer our question about what's realistic, so we can come to some terms. Because I mean, I'm well aware, every time I go by, there's something different that wasn't there before, so it's not simply, this isn't simply, you've got 4 campers on your property that need to be moved out of there, this is a more of a, there's an addition and subtraction element to the equation.
That would go along with that outdoor sale part. In the general commercial. You can do that,
Yes, you can,
but
I'm just asking how does that affect
technically
your,
an issue with a lot of the folks. And I understand that, I'm doing what I can now, and can I get 50%? I got a lot done as far as I'm concerned, I think I can get. You know, if housekeeping, I think I could get there.
well, I'm certainly fine tabling this, that, you know, it comes up, our meeting schedules are such that we always have a regular meeting. And then to get a second meeting, and it's almost always gonna be about 2 weeks after the regular scheduled meeting, or it's the end of the month, so. It just ended up, it wasn't meant to pressure you, but at the same time, as our attorney shared, you know, we've been noticing you for 3 months. And we are obligated to respond to the public complaint that has mounted over this issue, so we can't wait around for you to decide whether it's a problem or not, we've gotten sufficient complaint to know that it's a problem.
Well, for what's left, you know, the hard part's over. The only hard part right now is, you know, the dead of winter. And we live in Minnesota. So.
That's not when the notice started. Yeah.
Yeah, just the reason he and I got in a discussion about plastic crates, which is not what I want to either, is just what Joe talked about is we would recommend when we get to it, are we saying, you know, 50 to 100% of everything that's there? Or are we gonna, like you said, pull out saying, you know, lined up lawnmowers are acceptable, but there's a lot other than just lawnmowers there, so then it's the lawnmowers that are acceptable, but 50% of everything else. No, so I think Joe and I would interpret it as just, you know, 50% cleaned up would be, you know, half of the items are gone, you know, or stored somewhere. But if I don't know, Mike can tell us if there's flexibility to say, to try to call out items or,
I
you
think
know.
it's very difficult. I've never done a percentage.
Okay,
And the reason why is, I think it's almost a tacit acknowledgement that if 50% of the items are removed, that would necessarily mean the remaining 50% wouldn't be a nuisance. And that's simply not the case. I mean, I think the idea is, and I also think it's just hard to enforce, hard to define it in words, hard to enforce it. I prefer if you're gonna do a percentage or a chunk that you say something more specific, such as all of the items that are in the front yard facing whatever street. That way you would know, you'd be able to enforce that essentially. It's not a percentage, it's the physical location of any items referenced in a certain location, or just, I think Jeff that. I don't know if he's still there, but I think
Yeah.
it said something like, well, I should just give them, just stay 100% by 1 day. And so if you're gonna move forward tonight, I think that's what I would prefer, and if you wanna give some extra time, I also think I mean. You know, this is a community sort of thing, you're trying to work with people, right? But I don't know if what's really objectively reasonable, like objectively, I mean, I've done these cases for like over, 15 years now. When the city goes into enforce, we can hire contractors and we can get that project done in 2 days. Get it out in 2 days, we have everything done. Money will do anything, you can just go hire people and they'll show up and they'll do it. So I'm not sure what takes 6 months to do things, I guess that's a miss for me, that's a disconnect in my mind, but. I suppose if you're doing everything yourself. Yeah, it might take more time, but I think, the council, like I say, it's community. thing here. If you wanna give more time and serve an order that says, yeah, next time. I'm not opposed to anything you wanna do, I just wanna tell you that. You know, be a little careful about giving too much when, if you're gonna declare the nuisance. You know, it's already been 3 really good weather months, nothing, I mean, I don't know when these pictures were taken, but I assume. They were taken relatively recently, right?
November 19th is the date on the
Well,
photo.
not one of them, I didn't know if that was all of them, or
It looks like it.
is that right?
I'm scrolling through them right now.
So if you're gonna table it, what I would recommend you do, if you're gonna table it, and I don't know, that was your recommendation, don't know what the council thinks, but if you do that, I would recommend you. Continue the public hearing. To give Mr. Benner's attorney a chance to make a presentation once. But also give a chance to supplement the record that. With more photos that are more close, you know, if that's like January 10th, let's say, that we go out there and take photos January 5th. See the curse of that when you come to the meeting next time, you kind of have an accurate current. You know, of what it is, and if you move forward tonight. You know. You'd be basing the decision on these photos now, I think. The chief, when was the last time you drove over there or next to it?
We, Monday.
Monday this week,
Yeah,
so that was,
2 days.
2 days ago, what did it look like, is it substantially the same as these photos?
The corner lot, was
Where the
cleared out.
storage shed is depicted in the photos is gone, it's been noted.
Right.
But,
Numerous things are, have been sold or organized and repackaged. So
It's hard to.
the lot, that part is open now.
So the bottom line is, you have to make, the council's gonna have to make the decision if you think that this is a nuisance or not. And I'm not telling you what to do, I'm just saying you need to make that decision, read the ordinance. Consider the evidence and you'll make the decision, and then that's, so there's a 2-step process, it's yes or no on that. If there's a majority vote that it's not a nuisance, then I guess it's not a nuisance, you're setting a standard that the nuisance code doesn't consider this to be a nuisance. On the other hand, if you vote that it is a nuisance by at least a majority vote, then you need to decide what to do about it. And most of the discussion here has skipped over the first step and went directly to the second step about what are we gonna do about it. And so I don't wanna assume that you're gonna vote that way. But certainly the junk vehicles are a nuisance, I don't think there's any question that those. So does everybody understand that?
Yes.
So,
And I don't think we're gonna have difficulty reaching consensus on that, not that that's our job, we can vote individually, but.
right,
We wouldn't have entertained our staff spending as much time on it if we didn't think that it was a nuisance. We recognize the public's expression that it's a nuisance.
yeah.
I think in the best interest of our resident and business person who's come before us. We don't wanna just clean it up in 2 days and have the city take that expense. We wanna come to a reasonable agreement about how we can get to an objective measure of this being. Nuisance removed.
I would just point out the other obvious thing here, and that is, if you don't wanna fight about this, you have the hammer here. You could just go and adopt any ordinance you want. Almost every city that I've ever worked in has huge business regulation requirements that you can put on any business like this. You could require huge screening and impervious surfaces. And you could adopt an ordinance that would apply to this property, and you'd have to conform with the ordinance. So that's always an option. I think, I mean, to me, I look at that, that's probably a nuisance. But, you wanna work with them, but you also wanna kind of be middle, don't wanna be anti-business, you wanna make sure people can have a business or whatever, but also that the citizens are.
So if we,
Confident that you're following your ordinance, I guess, whatever.
if, I think tonight, if we can come to some kind of a consensus of what our expectations would be. And then we could table it. And Lance and could get counsel if you so chose, and come back and we could do a final vote on it. At our next council meeting. But I think it's important, like if we say 100%, so what is 100% cleanup? I would say 100% cleanup by July 1.
So.
So what does that mean? Does that mean, well,
Yeah.
explicitly? We want the barrels stored in a screened area. We want the tractors in a way that they're displayed for sale. We want items that aren't that they need to move within 10 days, it can't be in the right of way, we can't leave stuff parked in the street.
In the vehicles, they do have to be registered
They have
or
to be
gone,
registered
that's
or
just,
gone.
it's plain in the ordinance what it says.
And that's
Well,
enforced.
they're registered, everything's registered.
Right, they'd be licensed.
There's
Okay,
two
license.
licenses missing tab.
Yeah, okay.
I'll get
So-
that done.
It's in the resolution Caroline made, it says the owner. Shall comply with the removing the nuisance conditions from the property as identified in the September 19th, 2024 nuisance notice, exhibit B, and that's attached to exhibit B, and that goes pretty specifically.
And
Sorry,
that did pretty much include everything though, basically, we said inoperable lawnmowers. If the, I guess, now we don't want to be testing them, but we defined it, I believe, as an inoperable lawnmower in that letter. I've got to actually reference it myself. Does anyone have it in front of them or
I think
This
it's
is
just
number
a
15.
lawnmower.
does it just say lawnmowers? Okay,
Oh, yeah. Now, as many as you want behind it, that's not open to the public view.
it just says,
But,
yeah, it just says, you know, including barrels, wood pallets, lawnmowers, trailers, various motor parts and other junk rubbish, which includes materials or substances stored in the open or not enclosed in a building which does not serve or is not intended to serve any useful purpose or the purpose for which it was originally intended. Including but not limited to refuse, empty cans, bottles, debris, used furniture, unused appliances, machinery, parts, motor vehicle parts, remnants of wood, decayed, weather or broken construction materials, no longer usable, metal, or any cast iron materials. And then bullet point 2 says junk cars, and it specifically lists 3 vehicles identified by make, model, and license plate number. So.
If we get to, just laying this out, if we get to July 1st, what if there isn't consensus if it's a nuisance anymore or not? I mean, we've already given authorization to move forward and remove stuff. I mean, do we have another final vote to say, okay, let's enact this
Honestly,
ordinance or?
I think if you're asking my opinion as to what, if you want to table it, my opinion is the best way to do that. Would be to table it just till January. Should decide
I think
it
that's fair.
and that, because, well, I think, you would say basically table it till July.
No,
Table,
not,
table our decision till January.
Yeah.
yeah,
That
it was
makes sense.
considered for January, but I think today, forgive me for interrupting you, but tonight. It gives some explicit instruction. I'm getting kind of these. I'm hearing kind of vague things, now you just spelled out exactly what it is that we're looking to have cleared out of that property. And if we're all in consensus of that, then we're good, we can make that final decision. In January, and I would recommend that we give him until July 1 to have 100% done. That's just the end of the story.
Yeah.
And after July 1, we'll have to take action based on our ordinance.
Sure.
Sharon Burke again. I really support being sensitive to the Mr. Benner. But he got his letter in September, and if you indicate or have a deadline in July, that's almost a year. That's 10 months. And I don't think that's fair to the residents to be looking at it that long. So I would encourage you to have an earlier deadline. What's the normal deadline, like 10 days?
No, I mean, I think the city, I mean, I represent a lot of cities. in
Yeah.
So 10 cities, we do things all the time.
You would give us 10 months to.
Well, it just depends on the quantity.
Sure.
Of it, because you want, I mean, you have to understand something. When we go in and fix it, you pay, John Q. Public pays for that.
We're trying to make this work.
Sure, I
So
understand.
you want to work with people and be a community oriented.
Mhm.
and
And this is our first conversation with Mr. Benner as a group, as a body. And so I think what we're just saying is we will take all this into consideration. We will act in January. We just want to open a process that's manageable.
Yeah, I mean, and if he can, I mean, I, like I said, I have a lot of experience with this more than anybody else in the room, so I question, I say July 1st. I question that, but on the same token, if he says, I'll do it for July 1st. You know. It seems reasonable to give a person who is agreeable to that much time, but it's really up to the council to decide what they think here, and, you know, I'm not gonna be an arbiter of what's reasonable, I mean, the councils have done all kinds of different things. and I don't ever make a comment on it, it's not my place, you know. I just think you have to make two-step analysis, number one, and the resolution encompasses all of that within the resolution. So step one would be declaring it's a nuisance, and step two would be to decide a reasonable path to allow the property owner to abate the nuisance, so
I
that's.
also think that it is the week before Christmas, and as you stated, if we have a public hearing again, I don't think we're gonna hear, I think we're gonna hear comments consistent with the concern about it being a nuisance, and that's.
Yeah.
Important as well.
Yeah, and then the other thing you could do is you could close, I mean, I don't know, part of Caroline's point that she told me was well taken, but she did put a lot of work into
Yes.
sending the notice, meeting with them
Yes.
multiple times, looking at the property multiple times. Doing it on December 2nd, then moving in 16 days, you know, so you could just close the public hearing. With the exception of allowing his lawyer to write a letter to include and consider, if you didn't wanna have a whole on. I mean, we spent 45 minutes on this now.
Yeah, much of it on debate, I think the public comment that we receive will be manageable,
Okay,
but I think it's important.
I'm good either way.
Yeah, so I guess I would move to postpone it until our January council meeting, what was that, January 7th? To make a final decision.
Would my attorney be able to be present then?
Absolutely,
That's why we're getting it to the January 7th. And I don't think we postpone it after that.
No, we only have one council meeting a month unless we have a special meeting like tonight, but as you may have heard, a lot of effort was made to have this special meeting and this public hearing. We would have typically conducted that as a normal business in our regular meetings, that's what we'd like to do in January. We don't wanna be here again in the middle of January trying to reorganize another special meeting.
and then I think that would give Caroline and I could both look at the resolution and maybe. Tweak the language based on this conversation, because it seems like. The tenor I'm seeing is we just wanna pick one day and say clean it up, just for sake of ease and not put the screws in sheets.
I think that's my thoughts on it, but I think it needs to be, to John's point, clear conditions, like we want X, we kind of like our planning, we want Y, you know, so. If we can be a little bit more specific, which is kind of in the letter,
It is very.
so
Yeah.
basically, if we follow some of that, I would be much more, you know, if we give him time to get his lawyer. Whatever, clean up more, get us more pictures to finalize what we're looking at, and then we make a decision.
I think too, though, and I think this is something that I'd ask, I think. Can we ask for a more immediate response to things in the right of way?
Well, I think that's what we should
Well-
look at next week.
I mean, if there's things in the right of way, you should just immediately go remove them.
End of story.
It's your right of way, you cannot put things in the right of way,
Okay.
I didn't realize that, I mean.
Are you talking about when you say right away the street? Because I got comments that people believe that his property, part of that was city right away, but when we looked at the property lines, it did go right up to the street.
Well, that's a back question,
But you're referencing trailers parked in the street.
Street, yeah,
Okay. So
well, are they legally parked in the street, do they have tabs, are they operable? I mean, people
the
park,
highway trailers, yes, they're all legal trailers, right, Lance?
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
We have 24 run trailers,
well, that's,
72 on vehicles, 24 on
well, that's
trailer camper.
in your parking ordinance.
Yes.
Yeah, and I've been many rounds on that in many cities. And that's a hard problem to fix, cause you gotta monitor it and
Yeah,
prove that it's 25th hour and all that
yeah.
stuff.
I got a question about the right of way from people, but if you do look at the right of way, whenever the county changed things years ago, the road moved, but the right of way stayed, and it's right on its curb. So people might visually think it's in the right of way, but
it's not.
it's not. I mean, basically, you know, plowing snow, I mean, it's right up to it's right away, right up to the curb, and probably, I suppose, 80% of the front of this property too.
Yeah, I have surveys in this area that kind of illustrate that, if anyone's curious.
I would just be careful of towing anything unless you're absolutely certain it's in the right of way. But I think if it is in the right of way, I think that's a precedent thing. You don't wanna allow people to just put crap in the right of way, you know? If it's an encroachment, that's called an encroachment. You wanna just give them like a 10-day notice and then go. So that's kind of an important, I mean, to me as a lawyer, that would be an important one, that you regulate the right of way, and I'm sure you have an ordinance to regulate the right of way.
We do.
Yeah. So I didn't realize that, I guess that was. not in my brain, but that would be my advice to you on that.
So we have to, do we recess the public hearing?
I would just make a, is the public hearing still open?
No, I closed it.
So you can read, what I would recommend then is just, people were talking after you closed it, I think.
Yeah.
That's how I took it, but. What I would say is you should just not touch the public hearing tonight, have Caroline notice a new public hearing or a continued public hearing for whatever the date is. And then just make a motion to postpone this matter until that date,
And
Is
you
that your
can,
motion?
I so move.
second, okay, second.
on all of that, yeah.
We have a motion by Tim, second by Brian. Any further discussion? All those
I
in
don't
favor
think this
say-
is a good idea. I think we should be taking action on a nuisance in the city instead of just letting it slide. That's my opinion.
That's fine. Yeah, all right.
So is that a nay or?
We will vote, okay? Here we go.
Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No,
Thanks, all right. All right, we have no further business, right?
We do have one more.
We do one more, that's right, sorry. Okay, our, take home vehicle policy, so this is nicely drafted. Anybody have any questions before? Same thing about
Move to approve.
Joe, want to approve by John?
I'll second.
Second by Tim, any discussion?
Just so clarity, we were asked about, does this not allow the Public Works Department to take home when they know there's a no emergency? No, this doesn't. This is applicable to like a commuting privilege, but the Public Works can at any time know that there's an emergency coming and realize they're in a better situation if they take it home on an ad hoc basis. So just wanted to clarify that. And then I think there was a suggestion about removing the policy on you can't take friends and family, and then we got into the legalese of that, so we just thought that it's no personal use of that vehicle encompasses, don't give friends and family rides, so.
We've got a motion and a second.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. You got your eye, Jeff. All right.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you. Second by Gene. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
Oh, Jeff, no, no, sure. Thank you.
Yeah.